The first thing to note is that the profile introduction is going to be your business card. It will be the first thing that your intended audience will see if they're doing a search for candidates. Let's say it's an employer searching for candidates online. What they will begin seeing is things like your name or the name that you go by, the industry that you have selected, where you're currently employed, or the industry that you are hoping to transition into, the geographic location you're at currently, or one that you are maybe conducting a remote job search from. Your profile headline, photo, and education are pieces of information that would be included in that profile introduction area. It's also highlighted if somebody, like I said, is doing a quick search for you and looking up some information for candidates that they may be identifying within the greater St. Louis area or Nashville, Tennessee. They're going to see people who match certain criteria when they're conducting this specific search. It's also important to note that the name that you are putting on top of your resume or in applications when you're submitting those for employment should be consistent with the name that you're including on your LinkedIn profile and the email address that you're using when you are putting that information into application tracking systems. That's important because if an employer is wanting to do research on candidates, which most employers will conduct some background information through digital profiles such as LinkedIn, will likely use your email address to do a search. Now, LinkedIn's made it easier over the last few years to allow its users to add multiple email addresses, so that if you have a primary email address through your work, you can include that, but you can also include a personal email like Gmail, AOL, Hotmail, those kinds of things. But what I recommend is always having something that is a combination of your first and last name, such as step 2, which is your customized public profile URL, so that there's consistency and it's easier for people to find you. There could be many, many people with your first and last name. Maybe there's a slight difference in spelling, but you want to make sure that if somebody is researching you, they are finding the person that matches all of the information that you have presented in an application. Now, if you're just including information, you haven't maybe applied for any positions, that's completely fine too, but you want your information to be consistent across any of those online digital profiles, in addition to any application materials that you're going to be using. Another example of this may be if your name is Samantha, but you go by Sam, it's completely okay to say Samantha in parentheses, then say Sam. This allows, again, your audience to know that while Samantha may appear on your resume, or if conducting a formal search of a candidate, that may be the first name that pops up, but Sam is what you prefer to go by. So clarifying that within your profile introduction is a great way for you to ensure that there's consistency across any profiles or application materials where your name would populate. Some listed optional information to include would be your education and your current job title within your profile. And LinkedIn allows you to, before publishing information, to either notify your network if you're making updates to your profile, which that's completely up to you. You can check that box and say, yeah, I want everyone to know that I just changed my most recent LinkedIn headline from this to that, or you can just avoid those notifications to your network altogether. There may be some advantages to doing that if maybe you received a new job and you're updating that new job title as it's a part of that introduction to your profile that may be featured, like the company logo, or if you have a new educational experience, you may not want a lot of engagement with your network about that new change to your career path, but it is something that is completely up to you depending on what you want to showcase to your audience. I do also want to note that some of the edits that you would want to complete on your LinkedIn profile may be more conducive for doing it via a desktop browser at your computer versus the mobile app. For instance, it could be easier to change your banner photo and some of the fill-in sections via your desktop app versus your mobile device, because some of those features may not populate on your mobile device. So keep that in mind too when you're adding or editing content to your LinkedIn profile. I mentioned earlier that the customized public profile URL is a great way to build consistency or uniformity across how your name appears when you are including that link in any component to your personal brand. Employers and more sophisticated applicant tracking systems have made it, in some instances, a part of an application where you can optionally include a web URL to your LinkedIn profile. Having a combination of your first and last name, or maybe the handle that your email is, or the email that you're using most frequently, or your professional email account, would be a good URL customized feature that you can include in your resume. It's something that you can also highlight in other components to your personal brand when sharing contact information, like via business cards or any links that you may include in your email signature. It just makes it more uniform and polished. So this is another way for you to make that customized in the profile settings. And again, this is one of those features that would probably be easier to customize, or may only be accessible to customize via the desktop application. The next thing would be a profile and banner photo. Now, profile photos are supposed to be reflective of your personality. It's putting a name to a face. For some professionals, maybe they do not want to have a public profile photo that anybody that is not immediately connected to them can see. In your privacy settings through LinkedIn, you could also make it to where if someone is searching for you, that your profile photo may not populate. It may just include your name and your job title. You can make those customizations. It doesn't have to, it does not have to populate in those searches. But what I recommend, if you are looking at a opportunity to really make a facelift to your LinkedIn profile, is to have a profile photo that is professionally taken. If you are a Webster University student, or if you're here in the greater St. Louis area, we do offer free LinkedIn photos at least twice a year. And most recently, we had over 80 students participate in our LinkedIn photo booth. So we know that there's a lot of opportunities for you to come and have those photos taken, and we'll continue to present those to you. But what my point to this is that you want to have an updated photo. You want to have an opportunity that if you currently have long hair, your LinkedIn photo probably should have long hair. If you have buzzed hair, your LinkedIn photo should probably be reflective of your most recent look. That could be very timely or consuming of people's resources, but we understand that, you know, if you're looking for a job, you also want to make sure that everything is polished and up to date. Your banner photo could be something that is generic from the pre-packaged banner images that LinkedIn has prepared, or you can also source one online. And there's a link here, and you can again access that via the link that has been included in the chat box. There's 23 LinkedIn profile banners that you can download from the courtesy of the Muse. And that's another way for you to have something that doesn't look generic, even though it's probably widely used, but still does set you apart, because the frequency of people's professionals profiles that I see that do not have a LinkedIn banner is probably something I come across daily. And that's just one of those quick things that you can do to add a little bit of additional personality to your LinkedIn profile without doing a complete overhaul of the profile. So another thing to consider is the backdrop. The LinkedIn banner should in some way match or reflect the profile photo that you have selected. For example, if you're using a blue backdrop for your LinkedIn photo, then maybe you're using a contrasting color for your LinkedIn banner so that it kind of has this polished look to it, and you want to make sure that you're staying within a nice color story that will add some personality or some appeal to that first part of your LinkedIn profile. So again, little changes to your LinkedIn profile in this beginning section of your profile could have a huge impact in the way that you are perceived by your intended audience. The next step is your LinkedIn headline, and your LinkedIn headline will be automatically defaulted by either your current your current job title with your current employer, or your current education status if you don't have any experience listed in your LinkedIn profile. For instance, if you are an undergraduate biological sciences major with an emphasis in pre-medicine, then it's likely going to say something like biology student at Webster University with an emphasis in pre-medicine. Those are generic. They're not as personable as you can potentially see just from that example on the fly. But what I really want you to focus on is how can you stand out? How can you have a headline that will entice somebody to click on your profile? So it may be something as generic as, I'm a junior marketing major at Webster University. What may signal to an employer who is, or an audience who is looking for candidates with your academic background or in your geographic location, is that if you're a junior marketing major, they may say, well, you know what, there's a baseline of knowledge through their educational experience so far that would make them suitable for this type of internship that we are offering, compared to just saying marketing major at Webster University. So thinking about how you can be intentional in incorporating some strategic language within something as simple as your LinkedIn profile headline is an effective way to entice someone to engage with them or hope that they want to connect with you. Other examples that could be somewhat in our view generic but different than just having a job title could be partnerships manager and creative strategist. Maybe you're going further and you're having in a specific industry or a specific area that you want to showcase your impact in. Those are great ways, again, to have that customized feel to your LinkedIn profile instead of just your current job title or your current education status. Other ways that you can really focus on this is having key buzzwords within your headline, like creative communicator in writing and editing, graphics and video, and social media and blogs. Those are ways that you can incorporate a lot of industry specific or job specific language in that headline, and that is a searchable field for LinkedIn Recruiter. And that could be another way for someone to say that this person is using the language that we're specifically looking, or the skills that we're specifically looking for is highlighted within our job descriptions or what we are screening for. We may want to connect with this person to see if they're interested in our opportunity. So again, just kind of incorporating that and using that. It's likely that you'll change this probably more frequently than other components to your LinkedIn profile because it's the easiest thing to change as you obtain new experience, new knowledge from an academic program, or develop or improve a new skill. And those are ways that you can effectively reach your audience just by making a small change to your LinkedIn headline. Now, again, your LinkedIn headline is just kind of a calling card. It shouldn't be the longest, most lengthy piece of information about yourself. You want to reserve that for your introduction. The big component of your introduction will be your LinkedIn profile summary. Now, if you've participated in webinars, career development webinars at Webster University, we always make a distinction between your application materials like a resume and cover letter, reference document, or a CV to your digital profiles. And your resume is an opportunity to have a summary of qualifications at the start of your document so that it gives your reader an overview of who you are, your objective for the specific document. Everything on there is cohesive because you strategically placed it on that document as you want your reader to know that you matched your qualifications to the particular job that you are applying for. Well, your summary on your resume is going to be void of any first person pronouns. So you're not going to say, in my role at XYZ company, I am responsible for this, this, and this. Or last year, I worked collaboratively with the team to execute a project that had ABC impact. No, you're not going to use first person pronouns on your resume, but your LinkedIn has a little bit more of a personable feel to it while still continuing to elevate your professional persona digitally. And that's where you get to incorporate those first person pronouns here in your digital profile. You can tell your reader specifically what you do and why you do it and your impact. This is a great way to build a little bit more personality into that hiring process if you're elevating your LinkedIn profile with the intention to attract recruiters. And this is, again, a way that you can engage in conversation or give your reader a call to action so that they connect with you or they engage with you in some way. So if you're currently looking for an opportunity where you can leverage your strengths in leadership, management, and teamwork, then how is that going to come across in your summary? What are some specific examples that you can share that will let somebody know that you have developed those skills and that those skills are ready to transfer into that new employment opportunity? That is an effective way for you to make a great first impression when somebody is reviewing the content on your LinkedIn profile. Another effective way for looking at the content that is included within your profile summary is in the first 2 or 3 sentences. Your reader is going to see your profile, but then it's going to say something like, see more. So they have to actually click down to see any additional information if you're writing block style paragraphs. So if you have 3 to 5 short paragraphs in your LinkedIn profile summary, you definitely want to make sure that you're giving them a reason for them to click down so that they continue to read what you have to say. And that's how I like to edit or audit my writing on LinkedIn. Does my reader likely want to hear what I have to say? And hopefully you get to say, absolutely, yes. They want to engage with me. They want to connect with me. They want to know that you are the subject matter expert in the area that you are currently employed in or seeking employment in. So you have to talk the language that the recruiter or that other like-minded professionals are also sharing in that context, because it's going to be valuable. It should be a match. There should be no confusion. Oh, this person worked all these jobs, but they have nothing to do with what they're applying for. Everything should be very, very, very strategic and cohesive when you're presenting that information in your LinkedIn profile. Now, the next step is looking at your list of skills. Remember, your LinkedIn profile allows you to have a minimum of 3 to elevate it to an all-star level. And no more than 50 skills. Now, here's an opportunity for you to really think outside of the box when it comes to skills. There are many different types of skills. You have technical skills or hard skills. You have soft skills or interpersonal skills. You also have workplace specific skills that may include competencies that have been developed through, say, a certification program or the educational program that you're currently in. And then there's transferable skills, which all of those skills should be transferable or pack and go from one position or experience to the next. So how you articulate those skills and competencies is going to be key here. Now, LinkedIn will allow you to highlight 3. Your top 3 skills. You can pin those skills at the top. They should be the 3 strongest skills that you have. You should have examples of how you have demonstrated those skills in current previous work experiences. In addition, how they can be then transferred to your future employer to add value to their organization. So thinking about those skills should be strategic and should be cohesive with any additional information that you are including within the profile, the beginning profile sections of your document. So for example, if you are in graphic design, design. Graphic design should be a top skill. Or you are taking it a step further and saying, what area of graphic design am I going to emphasize here as a top skill that I want to pin at the top of my skills section? Maybe it's interactive digital media, or you're wanting to highlight your competencies or take a skills assessment in Adobe InDesign, Photoshop, or any of those other creative applications that those professionals use. My point here is that you need to be strategic, and you can also change that as frequently as you want to highlight that, or as often as your goal may be reevaluated to see what is most important to the jobs that you are applying for. So some examples here that are included. Altogether, you want to focus on the skills that are within your area of industry knowledge, areas that are transferable, those interpersonal skills that are important to leverage, like interpersonal communication, leadership, teamwork, and then thinking outside of the box. For instance, if you are somebody who responds quickly to emails, that can be a skill in LinkedIn. If you are somebody who uses or thrives in a hybrid work environment, that could be a skill that is listed in your LinkedIn profile. So thinking outside of the box, and not necessarily the types of technical skills that you would typically see listed in that section of your resume. You can think a bit broader about the skills and competencies that you are including in your LinkedIn profile. Another good hack for elevating that LinkedIn profile skills section is, let's say you're looking for positions at Nike, and specifically you're looking for sales positions, regional sales director of Nike. And you notice when you click on any of those job positions, it says you have two of the skills that are listed in the job description. Well, you may want to look at the additional skills that are included within that job description and say, well, wait, I have these skills. Maybe I need to make myself a little bit more competitive in this process if this is a position I'm going to be applying for. So I'm going to add those because I can share examples of how I demonstrated these. These are transferable to this future job, and highlight those on my LinkedIn profile. Another great way for you to really focus on what are employers searching for, what are they scanning for, what's included in their job postings, so that you can make sure your LinkedIn profile is completely in sync with their needs, with not just their needs, but you may also see that this is more generalized to other types of opportunities at other employers that you are seeing. So thinking about that, auditing that, and making sure that it is full is going to really make your profile stand out. And is another easy way for you to say, I have all these skills through my education, but also other experiences. And this is my list that I want to present to my intended audience. Now, with your endorsements, people who may come across your profile can endorse you for different skills. And the idea is that you may want to really focus on some of the skill areas that are listed in the top or that are pinned to the top. Hopefully you can collect endorsements from your peers that will show or reinforce that that is a competency that others see in you, that you have developed or that you use, or that is a strength of yours. So collecting those and requesting others to endorse you from those skills should also be something that you seek out when you are engaging with your LinkedIn contact network. So keeping that in mind, and also knowing that that is, again, something that others are going to look at, such as a recruiter, and say, you know, a lot of people are saying by and large that this person has excellent leadership skills. Well, if 200 people have said that by endorsing you for that specific skill, and they're connected to you, and they reinforce that through any sort of recommendation that they may be including as part of your LinkedIn profile, that's something that you should be proud of and something that should be highlighted. And it does go a long way when recruiters are reaching out to potential candidates for any positions that they're recruiting for. Another great way for you to really think about looking at your skills and how it can be incorporated into your LinkedIn profile is looking at examples of your work areas. So if you're looking at your work experience and you're wanting to showcase the employment, volunteer, co-curricular, if you're a student, activities that reinforce where these skills have been developed, you should also be thinking about work samples or artifacts that will reinforce that information to your reader. Artifacts or work samples will be wonderful for your intended reader to know that you're not just saying that you've developed this particular skill. You're applying that through showcasing a specific example of your work. So this may be a presentation that is not, that can be shared to external audiences, that is either uploaded or linked, if it's digital, underneath your experience that you are maybe referencing that specific work sample. It could also be photographs. If you're someone who maybe is doing event management, you're showcasing some of the events that you may have planned. Again, that kind of puts a picture to a description that you may have included within your responsibilities. That is something that will hopefully connect the dots for someone to just see, wow, this looks like a phenomenal event. This event looks wonderful, or this activity that this person is describing really matches what they have put here as an artifact. So thinking about that and changing that out as regularly as you would like to, or updating that, keeping it relevant, again, is an effective way to not just say, well, I've developed this or I have this as a skill. It's showing your reader, it's showing your audience that you have great work examples that can be useful in determining how much they want to engage with you for future employment activities. Now, another thing here, and I think I mentioned it down in step 8, is that you can feature some of these work artifacts or other types of posts that you are making to your LinkedIn profile as part of your pinned activity. And that is another way for you to have featured content that you want your reader to at least see as part of your introduction. So any pinned content and profile activity is going to be in that top 4th section of your digital profile. And that again will show how are you engaging with LinkedIn as a personal branding tool, but also as a community. And when you're looking at your LinkedIn profile, your activity snapshot, in addition to any pinned posts or media files that you're uploading to the platform, equally go a long way for what you want to share with your reader. So thinking about that and thinking, well, you know, maybe I don't have a lot of information that to share in this type of format, but I do post or I do share content that may be useful to pin or to promote on that part of my LinkedIn profile. That is another way, again, that you can show that you're engaged, you are being cohesive with the information that you're wanting to not just promote about yourself, but that you're engaging with other like-minded professionals by commenting, liking, sharing. So your profile activity is also something that can be restricted as far as who can view that activity when you are adjusting your profile settings. So what I recommend is always thinking about, well, what are you liking? What are you commenting on? What are you sharing? What are you posting? So if you stumble upon somebody's profile and they're posting a lot of information to share the accolades of their peers and themselves at their current employer, that is good self-promotion for you, your team, and your employer. It's also positively reinforcing the great work that you are doing, but also showcasing that this work can easily, hopefully in the viewpoint of who may be looking at this information, transferable to a future role. And that's essentially what you're trying to do here. You're trying to connect, you're trying to make as much of this information as viewable and go as far as it possibly can. Effective ways for doing that include using the @ symbol and then tagging. Say if you are wanting to talk about an event, a recruiting event with enterprise fleet management, you can @ enterprise fleet management, and that will also expand the engagement based off of how many people are following enterprise. If you're talking about something that is happening at your current employer and they have a public LinkedIn profile page, that's another way for you to showcase and to build a positive brand image or expand the brand identity of your current employer if that brand is less known. And again, that will attract hopefully some new connections, but it will also show that you are connected to your audience and really focus on ways that you can elevate your profile activity just through liking, sharing, commenting, and posting things to your social feed via LinkedIn. Now, one thing that I think is brilliant about conducting occupational and labor market research is that you probably are way more connected to those who work in similar roles or people who work at companies that you might be eyeing. And when you are beginning to look for connections that may work at Amazon Web Services or Apple or another employer that you're really interested in, you would be surprised how many of those first or second division connections that may already be bring you to somebody within that company or somebody who has a similar role. So here are some key features that I think are really important to know about when you are doing some preliminary research or wanting to just gather some information so that you can make informed career decisions. The advanced search tool using LinkedIn to find particular jobs that you're interested in, job titles, those types of things, have so many different filters now based off of industry, geographic location, education status. Those types of things can be very important. The more specific, the more narrow your search results will be. You can also save some of those searches. So if you're specifically looking at job search using the LinkedIn job search agents, you can set up notifications based off of your profile settings to include specific job titles, employers, geographic locations that you want to target, education level, those types of things that will be aligned to what you want to see. And LinkedIn will use machine learning to really focus on opportunities that align to those that criteria, but also make some recommendations. So you probably have seen in LinkedIn, if you're an avid LinkedIn user, or if you're using other social platforms, it may say, hey, we think you might be interested in this. And you're thinking, well, how do they know that? Well, it's based off of all the input information that you're including within the system. So if you're saying that you are someone who is really interested in working with sales and working with online sales, well, maybe you're looking at positions very narrowly. So they're making recommendations based off of other jobs that are also using some of those same skills, some of that same criteria that you're using for your primary search, to say, hey, you may also be interested in this because the job responsibilities or the skills are pretty much the same. So again, it gives you another glance using those advanced search tools. Alumni Insights, whether you're a Webster University alumni, a current student, or somebody who is a graduate of another institution, you can click on your university and see where is the alumni network currently working? What industries? Where are they located? People who may have your same degree, what are they doing? What does their career track look like? Do I know any people that I am connected to at my university who are working at Google? And then you can potentially use that as leverage for connecting with them and setting up an informational interview. That is an effective way for you to look at your network based off of your education. And that alumni tool will also give you some unique pathways. So if you're in a degree program and maybe may not have a linear path like psychology or sociology. And you're like, well, what can I do with the degree in psychology or sociology? Well, first, we recommend you come and speak to a career advisor at Webster University, but you can also see where graduates from those programs are currently working. Maybe you're on the fence about continuing education. You don't necessarily want to go into a graduate program right now, but you want to see what maybe some of these professionals are doing, or what certifications and licenses have they obtained. That's another way for you to look at what alumni are doing, where their paths have taken them, and maybe how you can engage with them to learn a little bit more about their career decision making. So using Alumni Insights is another wonderful tool for occupational and labor market research, in addition to just evaluating what the current career trends are. Company profiles are great for research. Some companies are way more active than others on LinkedIn. Companies use this as they would probably use any other social networking platforms. They're promoting their brand. They're hopefully allowing you to see a directory of those who have included that company as part of their own LinkedIn profile. It gives you sometimes job postings that they're featuring or that they've included within LinkedIn. Some of those employers enable quick apply features where whenever you click, it shares your profile information with that hiring manager so that they know that somebody is actively interested, and then may direct you to apply for that position via their external website. So using company profiles, getting occupational research through what information they include is one piece of the puzzle. Obviously, it's not the only piece that would be used as a factor when making any decisions about moving forward with applying for a particular position, but it's a good starting place. And finally, groups. There's groups that can be open to anybody, and some are very selective. If you have, say, a membership in a professional association, there may be a closed group for just those people who are in professional associations. This typically is more internal for job post sharing, shop talk, maybe exclusive access to webinars or other resources that are only for those group members or for those association members. It could also be alumni groups, maybe Walker School of Business and Technology graduates, and they're focusing specifically on news to use through the Walker School of Business and Technology. And as an alumni, this would be relevant to you. So whatever that may be, there's a group probably for everybody. Using those tools when you're browsing LinkedIn to see what some of those interest areas are will be a good way for you to expand your community with like-minded professionals. Okay, I'm going to pause there. I know that we had a couple questions come through, and I encourage you, if you have questions that maybe haven't been addressed or want my perspective on something, I encourage you to put that in the chat box. One question that came in is about profile questions. I'm currently in the military. My profile photo is not in my uniform. I heard that I should use my military photo until I retire in 2024. What is your opinion? It's your personal brand, your professional persona related to the specific opportunities that you are eyeing for should consider what the norms or standards are for yourself, but also within the industry that you're working in. If you're in the military, and the standard that you're seeing across the board is that you are expected to use your service photo as your main profile photo, then I would go with that norm. If that is, not a written norm or standard, I would probably seek examples or peers that maybe do not have that included on their LinkedIn profile. But that it's a personal decision, I think. And a good question. Some other questions that come up quite regularly is, should you feature, if you're featuring content in your introductory section, should you feature your resume, like a PDF version of your resume? I say if you are looking for work and you are including a PDF version of your resume, it gives your reader an idea of what you're putting out there as far as applications. And I see no issue with putting that or highlighting that within your LinkedIn section. Other things could be important to include in that section, maybe if you have digital credentials through like digital badges through Credly, or if you've completed a license or certification through LinkedIn Learning, those can also be referenced within the licenses and certifications section automatically upon completing those courses in LinkedIn Learning, but also through Credly, it could be a featured credential at the top of your profile in that section as well. So it just, again, depends how you want to present that information and the order of that and all of that. Yeah, so again, just kind of scratch the surface on the first steps of optimizing your LinkedIn profile. I'll include the first fourth of information that will be referenced when somebody clicks on your actual profile. And again, some of these features consider what privacy settings that you have on the back end. So if you indicate that anybody who is not connected with you cannot view your public profile photo, then they're not going to see that. So all of this is very specific based off of those privacy settings. But your profile introduction is going to essentially be your business card. So anything from your name, the name you go by, your academic background, and your most recent work experience or current employer can be featured within this section. The second step would be the LinkedIn profile URL, and using some combination of your first and or last name, and preferably seeing if there is a variation of that that resembles your email handle. And I can't remember if it's a period or if it's a hyphen. One of them cannot be used. It may be a period. I can't recall that off the top of my head, but if you are putting something in there and it's already taken or something, think of something that is as close to your first and last name as possible. Because if you are using your LinkedIn URL to include that as a link, and removing the hyperlink on your resume, it again encourages somebody to say, hey, there's a whole lot more about me. I actually want you to go check it out. I'm not going to give you the trouble to go and search for me, because I'm including that right here at the top of my resume, along with my city, state, phone number, and email. So making that as a standard as part of your contact information should be important. And then that third step is your public profile photo and banner image. And those, again, should just be uniform. How do you want to appear to your reader? Personality goes a long way here, and ensuring that you are selecting an image that is recent or at least resembles how you look, so that your reader knows if you are showing up to an interview, they may have already done that background, that they should at least know who they're expecting to see. And again, for privacy reasons, this may not be something that is shared with people who are not yet connected with you, and that's completely okay. It just depends on how you want to present that to anyone who comes across your LinkedIn profile. Good questions. What additional questions do you have about LinkedIn?